Please, sir, the high table awaits you. Please, can we bring him on with a round of applause? Please, sir, come to the high table. Thank you very much. We're moving on. We're going to be doing the goodwill message by the head of department, Professor Tochukwu Innocent Okeke. It will be represented by Professor Musa Umar. Please, can we welcome Professor M.S. Umar, representing the head of department, to do the goodwill message from the head of department, Professor Tochukwu. Can we give him a round of applause, please? Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As the going goes, allow me to stand on the existing protocol ably established by the first speaker. I am representing my head of department, Professor Tochukwu, who is unavoidably out of town on a very important engagement. So I speak on behalf of him and the department and my humble self to say that first and foremost, the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies at the University of Abuja, currently Auss-Ng University, is very delighted and highly honored to host you in this important city and this great university for the important deliberations that we have come to do. We are honored because the group of scholars who managed to become members of the SSRC Africa Network are not ordinary scholars. They are scholars of international standing, or else we wouldn't have succeeded in this prestigious institution that brought us here. I know that because I am a laureate of SSRC way back, not with this cohort of Africa Fellowship, but my PhD field research, 1992-1993, was generously funded by the SSRC doctoral research program. I know the process that you have to go through to win any funding from SSRC, because number one, it is the most premier and most prestigious scholarly association concerned with social sciences. And they have a very broad understanding of social sciences, not only the current dominant quantitative-minded kind of social science that is informed by physics envy, with the aspiration that they could do rigorous scientific analysis as is done in the natural sciences. Social Science Research Council embraces the humanistic tradition of social science, which included not only the typical social science organizations, political science, psychology, sociology, but also history, philosophy, communication, etc., etc. So it is a very well-known international organization with a very high respect from the scholarly community. So that is why I feel, and I am a colleague in the department, feel honored that we are associating ourselves with this very prestigious institution, and also with the caliber of Nigerian scholars that make me proud to be a Nigerian anywhere in the world. The talent that we have, the courage that we have, and the confidence we have in the country. Yes, many want to do Java, many have led, but guess what? They are looking for a re-entry back and they could not find it. But those of us who are home base are among the best of the best. So thank you very much for coming to share with us. Thank you for the honor. And we all look forward to continuous collaborative relationship with all of you as individuals or as a group. And we also look forward for another opportunity to collaborate with the SSRC in its laudable programs, not only in Nigeria, but across Africa and the world. Finally, the topic of your conference, of your workshop, reimagining peace and security in Nigeria, is quite relevant. There is never a time like now to reimagine, to bring the talent and scholarship of all of us to rethink why has it not been possible to end the needless violence across this land. What is not being done? What are we doing wrong? Why is it that violence in Nigeria seems to know like there's no end to it inside? Obviously something wrong is probably happening. Otherwise, the amount of resources invested, the personnel dedicated, including those who lost their lives to preserve the peace, should have brought us durable peace in Nigeria. Somehow, that has not been the case, very unfortunately. So it is really not only suitable that you are studying question of peace and security in Nigeria, but you are taking a very, very laudable approach to it, or reimagining. Like, let's go back to the drawing board to rethink what is missing in all the previous efforts to bring peace and security to this land. So it is on that note that I once again welcome you to the Great University of Abuja, to the city of Abuja, and to this beautiful campus. And those of you who are as members, you now know where your money goes. So thank you very much, everyone. Welcome. I wish you good liberation.
Please, I think we should give the professor another round of applause. Nigerian scholars make him proud anywhere they're found in the world. I think that's true. Please, can we appreciate Professor one more time? Indeed, they do. In spite of all the efforts targeted at peace, we believe that something is truly very, very wrong, in spite of all these efforts. I think I want to join hands with you to appreciate the Professor one more time. Can we appreciate the Professor one more time for that beautiful speech? Thank you very much, sir. I don't know whether the dean, faculty vibes, is in the house. She's still on our way, so we'll move on to the next item on the program. That will be the declaration of the conference, opened by our special guest of honor, the Vice Chancellor, ably represented by Professor Abdul Buba, Director, SSA Research. Please, can we with a round of applause bring on Professor Abdul Buba, the representative of the Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja, now
Good morning, all. Distinguished guests, esteemed academics, and fellow participants. It is my great honor to represent the acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Matthew Adamu, University of Abuja, at this inaugural seminar on reimagining peace in Nigeria as resilience, conciliation, social justice, and everyday politics. This timely theme resonates deeply with our collective aspiration for a more peaceful and prosperous Nigeria. As we gather here today, we recognize the complexities of peace building in our diverse and dynamic society. The African University's seminar series, in collaboration with the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, University of Abuja, has brought together scholars, policymakers, and stakeholders to deliberate on critical issues that impact our nation's peace and stability. The themes of resilience, reconciliation, social justice, and everyday politics are intricately linked to our quest for sustainable peace. As we explore these concepts, we consider, or we must consider the roles of education, dialogue, and inclusive governance in fostering a culture of peace. I commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration for its efforts to address Nigeria's security challenges, including the recent directives to security agencies and the formation of a high-powered committee to restore peace in troubled regions. We also acknowledge the increased funding for security in the 2025 budget proposal. As academics, we can contribute to addressing these challenges through research, policy development, community engagement, and capacity building. By working together, we can leverage our collective expertise to build a more harmonious and equitable society. In the face of challenges such as insecurity, economic instability, climate change, and governance issues, it is imperative that we reimagine peace in Nigeria. Let us engage in robust discussions, sharing knowledge and experience that can inform policy and practice. I commend the organizers for this initiative and urge participants to seize this opportunity to shape the future of peace building in Nigeria. Together we can build a brighter future for our nation. Thank you, and I wish you all a productive seminar.
I thought maybe I wanted to give it as a gift when in master of ceremony. Sorry, servant of ceremony. Can we one more time appreciate the representative of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Abdul Robert. Thank you very much, the Chief Director of SSA Research. Now we're going to move into the before Dean, as Dean of my faculty comes in, I think we're going to move into the citation of the keynote speaker, read by Professor Chuka. Come on in. Please, can we bring Professor Chuka to the microphone? With a round of applause, please. Thank you very much, and welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our keynote, would you mind coming to stand this way? I actually regret, keeping you standing there, but we just have to go there. You're welcome, ma'am. So my job is simple: to recognize. Sorry, ma'am. Would you like to recognize by way of reading out the citations of our lecturer today, our teacher, and the person we are going to be learning from today. So, Auss-Ng Babatunde is a professor at the Center for Peace and Strategic Studies, University of Ilorin, Nigeria. She is the University of Ilorin's first professor of peace and conflict studies. She holds a master's and a PhD degree in peace and conflict studies from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. She was designated the best graduate student in her set for the master's program. She also holds a Bachelor of Science degree in economics from the University of Ibadan as well. Professor Babatunde's scholarship has been supported by distinguished academic fellowships For example, the African Humanities Postdoctoral Fellowship by the American Council for Learning Society in 2010, the Research Fellowship in Peace and Peace Studies in the Faculty of Social Work, University of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. In 2017/18, she was a fellow of the Rachel Carson Center for Environment and Society in Ludwig Maximilian University, Munich, Germany. In 2017, again, she was a fellow of Brown International Advanced Research Institute, Brown University, in Rhode Island, United States. In 2019, she was a guest researcher at the Nordic Africa Institute in Uppsala, Sweden. In 2023, she was the Landos Fellow of the Rachel Carson Center for Environment and Society, and in 2024, she was the A4 Visiting Research Fellow in Oxford, University of Oxford in the United Kingdom. She is a former member of the Governing Council of the International Peace Research Association, IPRA. Her work has also been supported by a research grant from different institutions and organizations. For example, her research she has received research grants from the Council for the Development of Social Science Research in Africa, CODESTRA. She has received grants from Social Science Research Council, particularly the African Peace Building Network. She has received grants from American Political Science Association, Sentinel Foundation. She received a grant from the International Peace Research Association Foundation. She has consulted for the following institutions: Global Center for Pluralism in Canada. She's consulted for the Center for Democracy and Development, West Africa. She's consulted for the National Open University of Nigeria, the International Rehabilitation Council for Torture Victims in Denmark. She's also consulted for the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Her research interests generally includes conflict resolution, traditional models of conflict resolution, resource governance, human rights and security, peace building, and gender studies. In fact, she has recently she's recently co-authored a book titled Managing Violent Religious Extremism in Fragile States, Building Institutional Capacity in Nigeria and Kenya. This was published by Routledge, Africa Governance Series, and has been recommended in Ethiopia, in Ethiopia, Shanghai Level Forum books. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to welcome this rich lady, rich in the mind, rich in knowledge, rich in the pocket, and rich in leadership. Let us recognize and make welcome Professor Auss-Ng Omowumi Babatunde.
Good morning, representative of the Vice Chancellor and distinguished delegates, representative of HOD, distinguished professors from the University of Abuja, the members of the organizing committee of the African University Seminar Series, and also I have to acknowledge the representative of the African Peace Building Network of the Social Sciences Council, representative of the director, Professor Auss-Ng. Also, my distinguished colleagues, members of the media, and I would like to also thank you for this invitation to present the keynote lecture for this inaugural AUSS Nigeria chapter seminar. Thank you. My name is Abosede Babate. I'm a professor of Peace and Public Studies from the Center for Peace and Strategic Studies, the University of Illinois, and I will be presenting this keynote paper on the title Re-Envisioning the Local Tongue in Peace Building, Traditional Leadership, Community Resilience, and the Management of Resource Conflict in Nigeria. And the local tongue in peace building was conceptualized and propounded by scholars in the global south. And the central idea is about how to decenter and decolonize peace building practice. But at the same time, how do we also decenter peace building knowledge? Because the fact is that the local tongue, the conception, is dominated by scholars in the global north. So how do we integrate the voices of scholars in the global south? And in doing this, we have to look at the local realities, local practice, dynamics of conflict in Africa, to be able to see how does this conception about the local tongue peace building fit into our African local realities. And in doing this, I think the case of resource conflict in Nigeria gave us a critical example to be able to interrogate the local tongue in peace building. How does this fit into what? Our approaches, realities in local communities. How does this fit in the issue of resource conflict in particular? Nigeria, we know, is blessed with abundant natural resources. But these conflicts, unfortunately, these resources, unfortunately, have been what? A major subject of violent contestation over access, distribution, and control of natural resources like oil, like minerals, forests, water, land. And at the same time, we know that these natural resources are vital to drive more economic growth and development in Nigeria. But the violent contestation over it undermine what? Local economy, national economy, and at the same time, livelihood of Nigerian population. So it is important for us to be able to explore what are the key gaps in the intervention to manage this conflict. In the Niger Delta, for example, called the Ministry of Finance has been friendly, intensely, and violently contested in this that because of the environmental harm arising from the exploitation of oil by transnational oil corporation and inadequate benefit. And this conflict not only results in environmental and social calamities, but also amplifying violence, poverty, insecurity, communal crisis. Another example is pastoralist conflict, particularly in non-central Nigeria. We have seen how it has been violently contested. The same case of killing, violent attack, Benue in Plateau State. And this conflict leads to competition for decaying land and water resources under condition of deteriorating socio-economic conditions, widespread poverty, transborder flow of security vacuum, and this conflict has led to human fatality, displacement, destruction of infrastructure, as well as desecration of socio-cultural capital. So this mining resources, mineral resources in particular now, is expected to drive Nigeria post-oil agenda. and also to drive global energy transition. But sadly, this mineral resources are found in rural areas where there is near absence of social and security infrastructure and volatile environment. And at the same time, mineral activities as well are still even led to conflicts new conflict in its of peaceful landscape. So this necessitates important first to examine what are the key issues with peace building. And at the same time, we look at the political economy of this resource conflict. For example, as intersect with armed banditry and violence extreme, violence, because cattle theft, artisanal mining has been a major source of finance of this armed group. In the Niger Delta, oil working is a source of finance for the armed militants. So we need to now be able to examine, despite that there have been decades of state intervention, peace building initiatives to manage this conflict, both at the state and at the local level. The conflict has remained intractable. Excuse me. Yes, are you flowing with mine? Please. Yes. Tony, the conflict has remained intractable. Please. The conflict has remained intractable, complex, protracted. So this necessitates us to look at what are the key challenges. Because the local turn in peace building was conceived as an attempt to be centered peace building, to integrate local voice, their agency participation. But the reality is that even though peace building has been localized, but these challenges that it has not mitigated violent conflict. Because why if community have adopted a non-violent approach to manage, any community deploy violent confrontation, and this continues to undermine the local economy and security. So this raises critical questions about the capacity of local actors, particularly traditional leaders that are at the center of the localized peace building. So I want to draw on my field studies, particularly in the Niger Delta region and the North Central Nigeria, to be able to explore and interrogate the social, cultural, and political realities and dynamics that influence the capacity of traditional leaders to positively respond to build the capacity, the resilience of their communities, to be able to positively challenges linked to resource exploitation, asset distribution, and also to mitigate violence. So now, in that, my paper raised key questions. The first is what social, cultural, and political issues influence the success or failure of localized peace building to manage resource conflicts and mitigate violence? Are there strong and viable social, political structure and environment that can promote culturally grounded, inclusive, sustainable, locally viable peace building? Who are the local actors involved in peace building initiatives, and how are they perceived? Are they perceived to be legitimate, credible, trustworthy by communities? To what extent the local peace building process incorporates local voices, agency, ownership, community that participation that are vital to the local term to be able to constructively manage resource conflict? As I earlier said, I draw on my field studies in the Niger Delta. Excuse me, please flow with my presentation. On it, I have to draw my area of research in the Niger Delta. And I have 4 communities, 4 states in the Niger Delta, Bayelsa, Delta, River, and Akwa Ibom, and the North Central Plateau State. Although I've also done research consultation in other states like Kogi, Nasarawa, Niger, and so on. And I also look at scholarly articles to complement analysis findings. But before I proceed, I would first like to contextualize the key term in terms of traditional leadership, community resilience, and also local turn in peace building. And I want to look at the connection between these key terms. No traditional leaders refer to the system of governance that exists within traditional society, often based on inherited custom, royal lineage, and community recognition, rather than formal election. Although traditional leaders like king, chiefs, we have community elders, some community, we have priests, religious, we have secret society, and in some communities now we have youth and women leaders within the traditional socio-political structure. But the big hero in what? In managing, promoting community development, promoting and building their capacity to constructively manage. Although their traditional institutions have adapted to democratic reform, but their legitimacy is rooted in custom, tradition, norms, and they are centered to the localized peace building process because they preserve and what build socio-cultural capital, the indigenous cultural identity norms. So the critical role in instilling cultural value that can promote the capacity to respond, to adapt, to cope with what conflict issues surrounding resource conflict so that they can positively move. And they also serve as the bridge between their community, governmental bodies, civil society group, and development practitioners. Community resilience in terms of I like the key role of traditional leaders in building and developing capacity or collective action to what? To positively prepare, respond, adapt, and recover from disaster, crisis, and adversity of the soul. So strong local institution is vital to what? Building capacity of traditional leaders to be able to build the resilience of their community. So, scholarship have identified community resilience as an integral part of local peace building, which is culturally grounded in their custom, norms, and so, and a strong local institution enhance capacity to be able to positively adapt to what? To conflict issues. The local turn in peace building. Why am I about the local turn in peace building? The local turn in itself is about how do we decenter. Excuse me, please follow what I'm presenting. Then, how do we decenter the colonized peace building? It's about what is also known as localization. It has various terms, the cultural, the local, the everyday, the pragmatic, and the relational turn in peace building. It emerged from critique of the liberal peace, democracy, human rights, justice approach to peace from the end of the Cold War till now. And it's premised on the post-liberal framework about how we integrate content-sensitive, content-specific, bottom-up-oriented approach to peace building. And the importance of local communities, their norms, actors, their agency, and their endogenous practice and knowledge in designing and implementing more inclusive and more sustainable emancipatory peace process. And it's expected to contribute to the empowerment of local communities. And when we talk about this, it has been fusion about local agency, local knowledge, about local ownership, emancipatory power dynamics, that is to the center power, was inclusive, it includes local reality, their agency, and so on. Agency. So, in terms of this, how do we consider the local in peace building? Who are the local? In this peace building, scholarship has pointed to the ambiguity in terms of decentralization of power from top down to bottom up approach. So what we need to know who, what, and where is the local in relation to peace building. And scholarship has identified key actors in the local, and they include like local domestic actors, local authority, non-unit, non-state actors like NGO, civil society, local community, grassroots actors, state level actors, meso level like NGOs, civil society organizations. But also it emphasizes the key of traditional authority, traditional institution, even women group, religious organization in the local business, and emphasize the use of traditional, non-judicial means of conflict resolution and justice. So it's typically represent the traditional, the authentic, the legitimate. But there is also the expectation that they are to embrace Western norms and practices, values, which is at variance with local practices and realities. So we need to understand that this peace building itself is political and requires engagement with the problem of power, distribution of power, power dynamics, distribution of resources, rights, nation of political authority. Because we want what are the local realities in our communities where this resource as conflict manifests fester, that we need to consider the not so peaceful character of many actors or the domination of local structure by national and local units. The local turn intervention is in question by what? Because it can be out of tune with conflict dynamics, and it can inadvertently obscure the political as well as social-cultural reality that conflict and violence revolve around. There is tendency to neglect local reality, the experience, power dynamics that can affect the peace building outcome. Then the key question, can localized peace building be effective in a context of collapse or weak local institutions? These are critical questions. And within local communities, some reality, the existence of distinct structural power asymmetry. So the assumption that these local communities are sites of inclusive decision making, that local actors are peace-minded and local authorities have legitimacy in most contexts. So these customary institutions, they might borrow adapt even Western mode, which can be conceived as inverted tradition, but it often replicates that top-down, hegemonic, and biased state intervention approach. We also need to consider the heterogeneity of this. We have some are still rooted in local custom and practice, where others are not. And then we are local leaders legitimate the practice, execution, top-down approach of national, state, and political aims. And also the power struggle within the local institution itself, whereby even within the system, some people dominate power while others are marginalized. So in the context of resource conflict, also, are this conflict really localized? We need to ask ourselves. Because the notion that there's not so local nature of local conflict, and the necessity to look at diversity in approach to dealing with it. Because the conflict dynamics of resource conflict extend beyond the local issue, local reality, network of actors in terms of the global, the national, and the state. In Nigeria, our exploitation by global transnational oil corporations, their interaction with the state and local determine the nature of resource exploitation. Also, we need to look at how it also promotes injustice, whereby it privileges local leaders and their social-political and marginalize other people. And also the contestation between the state, national state, and local actors. So we have to deal with challenge of dealing with this dynamics. And at the same time, we need to understand that this resource conflict manifests first-time police parade within local community, because that's where the resources are found. And that is where the concentration violence was manifest especially. And we are the people that are affected by what? That resource exploration. So my research point will bring out two key dimensions: the traditional leader role in destructive management of law. And time and space will not allow me to share key quotes from responding, but I will want to give out the key themes surrounding the social, cultural, and political environment where violence comes to manifest and proliferate is a contested arena of struggle, asymmetric power relations, social inequality, structural violence, and behavior that are not necessarily peaceful and inclusive. My research is that local and community-driven peace efforts by traditional frequently perpetuate structure and culture of outright oppression and exploitation. Some traditional leaders privilege some local, they privilege their relative family, they associate their political network over others in the distribution of oil. In the Niger Delta, issue about royalty, cleanup, contact, pipeline, surveillance, compensation, scholarship, and job, and monopolize. I've seen what some of my respondents describe as man no man approach. And they will say, most of my respondents, especially the state, we don't accept job opportunity because our local leaders are traditional, they monopolize the benefits, and they go tell us, say, the government, the oil company, no, they give anything. So what they do is that they go collect the money, and when they collect, they collect the job, then go sell to outsider. If they don't sell to outsider, they go tell oil company to monetize it so that they get the money. And this one across several years of the same. And also we look at in the case of pastoralist conflict, distribution of land, water, and other pastoral is lopsided. We are those that are categorized as sector, ethnic minority, and marginalized. In some community, you find that it's not the land that's scarce. No, it's not the land is scarce. We have land, it's just that they manipulate us. Even they bring that issue of the Fulani in Plateau State, that they don't have access to rights. Their forefathers have lived in that community, but they are still considered as strangers. So another key issue is that this has pitted the youth against the community leaders and erode the respect and trust they have in them. It has led to widening gap between the youth and leaders. And the failure of these traditional leaders to instill cultural values that can serve as social control for social behavior has also contributed what issues like drug abuse by youth and women in some pastoral farming communities, where you go to market, you see we consuming narcotics and it leads to aggressive behavior, whereby they attack one another over issues, farmers, women. Another key issue is exploitation of powerless community members, especially youth and women. They will mobilize them to protest over issue of lack of electricity, job opportunity. Women will go to oil company platform, wait and stay there, protest for 1 week. At the end of the day, the benefit coming will still be challenged through this traditional leader who we are cooperating and not give anything or benefit to the people. So the next thing is that we look at is that traditional leaders, security agents, and vigilantes have been accused of imposing excessive fines on Fulani leaders for damage that is not equivalent to the monetary value of that. Also, is that high power unity within the traditional leader. As I said, we have the youth, women, they have women leaders, but they are marginalized. They are just seen as figurehead who they put there to give the semblance of what democracy, whereby they are not carried and they don't have any voice or say in the decision-making process. And this has led to the of the traditional leadership in some communities. We have to use the rescue power from the traditional leader under the use of creating community development, development committee, and they really gave them to what ceremonial position. Then traditional leader rely on cohesive and exclusionary. For example, some traditional local leadership, they harm their youth and mobilize them to what perpetuate violence against their opponents, against their group members of the community, to oppress them, to silence them, and to instigate you to attack the boring community, the very pastoral community. You are facing the issue about gun violence in Niger Delta, the role of traditional leaders who will harm, who will employ this gun to serve as security gun so that they can protect them against our group members who will come to their house to attack them. It's a big challenge. So under the peace building practice, whereby traditional leaders are being implicated in identity politics, ethno-religious violence, and cartel, which is rampant in the North Central. And the passivity of this traditional leader to the pastoralist conflict in some communities. They based on their mindset that they are not affected. After all, they have security guards that are protecting them. Why the people there have been attacked is another issue. And the youth also identifies the issue about abandonment of indigenous cultural practices, of identifying strangers as deterring criminalization. It used to be a kind of early warning in communities, but because now they have abandoned such practices, they are now influence of criminals into pastoral and family communities. And the issue that this traditional leader, the perpetrator of down approach by not engaging community leaders. They are invited to peace dialogue, peace building by civil society. Even their community members are not aware. The decision made now, they consult community, they consider their interest in what designing and implementing law, peace building approach. The security vacuum in community. Their one key challenge is the absence of security provision. But I can say that the action of local authority can mitigate or contribute towards security risk and value. So the protection of traditional by multinational, it also malfunctioning state institutions and local peace building efforts. And it also weakens local institutions. It intensifies grievance, undermines livelihood and well-being, and amplifies animosity and violent confrontation. Central, it also anchor the capacity of community to build positive resilience to cope with issues of resources and adopt constructive conflict management strategy. It undermines the key principles of local turn in peace building in terms of ownership, agency, legitimacy, emancipation, and other vital principles that can promote success of localized peace. Now, but despite this constraint, it is not all negative. We need to consider the few examples of traditional institutions or traditional communities and that are playing positive role in promoting community resilience and positive or constructive way of managing. You know that local peace building activities are hampered by inadequate funding, poor infrastructure, insufficient human resources, and local and institutional challenge of local and institutional framework. But despite this, my research shows that there are some traditional leaders that develop and build or their socio-cultural capital, which is very essential to be able to facilitate positive management. In some communities, you have seen where traditional leaders establish informal security outfit and through a youth-led vigilante group in the Plateau State called Yambango. In some communities, as aspect of collective action to secure community against sporadic attack by then also they promote fear and equitable distribution for benefit, land, water, and they also facilitate system of checks and balance. Even where traditional leaders themselves are accountable to their people, and their checks and balance linked to cultural norms and tradition that can ensure that everyone abide by the community and decisions are made collectively. They foster participation of community, regular meeting, dialogue, and so to promote this in their community. We also have they also integrate the voices of marginalized local actors, especially youth and women, in the work decision-making process. I have seen my research on gender where women acknowledge the hero of traditional leaders, promoting their capacity, agency in the peace-building process. This is one example, especially in family and pastoral community. Also, they coordinate some peace building like community association where they generate finance. I've seen community in Plateau State where they don't even have primary school, but they develop a kind of to build primary school, to get teachers to teach the youth in these communities, and for to support people who are leaders, people who are facing some financial challenge in their everyday life and build positive coping strategies. And in some communities, Western Niger Delta, traditional institutions have shown resilience by firstly containing the destructive influence of the oil industry, state and local. They deploy their indigenous norms for disobedience to traditional authority in the form of legal, because they are of authority, political authority vested, moral, where people disobey or evil. Some communities, it is a taboo to attack a member with a let out it. This way, that's what they call moral. So person can be publicly known. They also deploy spiritual sanction linked to their indigenous religion, like deities in some communities with Ayelala. They have some who they protect, and they know that these are form of social control mechanism to be able to be positive to manage the problem. In conclusion, the Niger Delta region, North Central example, review the social-cultural realities and political dynamics that inflect the success or failure of the localized peace building. And it's one that localizing peace building does not by itself result in emancipation or empowerment of local communities, and can often produce exclusion and divisive politics that contribute to violence. Localized peace building often replicates top-down exclusionary and biased practice of the liberal and neoliberal peace model. So, new approach to managing resource conflict must consider how intervention feeds into the politics of the local reality, local experience in community, and the kind of peace, justice, and social transformation ambition differ from diverse categories. What if they perceive as peace, what they perceive as justice, and differs across various based on their own interests, and the action can promote or impede successful locally driven peace process. So the strength and vitality of local institutions influence the role and capacity of traditional, those that are still culturally rooted, tradition customs that promote critical value of equity, justice, empathy, reciprocity, vital. Local peace building may not be able to address the structural factors that underpin resource conflict when both local and political leaders lack credibility and accountability. In contrast, we have political leaders lack accountability, but the local leader has credibility. It can help the community to a certain extent to be able to contain the adverse impact and develop ways to cope, adapt, and respond positively. Because at the end, they are the ones that will still suffer from the violent conflict, and they are the ones that are affected So the bad behavior of some local actors can hamper the peace building effort of credible traditional leaders. Context where, for example, majority ethnic group in Plateau State, all are considered as the Borom, are just attacking the Fulani. Even when some traditional leaders are building resilience, they still face attack because of the perception that all leaders from that ethnic, they are also what? They are all bad. So the kind of collaboration between international states, local and civil society can strengthen or weaken the agency and capacity of traditional leaders in localized peace building. Because lack of credible local leaders undermine peace efforts of other local actors, state and civil society. And this is a critical issue. My research on NGO, civil society, you see that when they want to enter to carry out peace building initiative, they have to go through this local leader. And they are the ones that will determine who gets what and why. They will give them the list. These are the people to them, these are community men. And at the same, they face the constraint of international donors who they have a time frame and they have what they call targets. They have targets. So in the effort to secure their job, because if they don't meet that target, they face the risk of what? Being sacked. So they just follow. It also leads to what I call political economy of research or peace work again, whereby you have politicized the issue about you have to bring color to traditional leaders. Excuse me, go back to the something of nothing traditional. So we need to emphasize the fact that the positive role of credible traditional leaders what to the relevance of culturally grounded, well-rooted in culture, non-value local institutions in promoting effective community governance and localized peace building. And these examples of good credible tradition that promotes effective localized peace building and constructive approach to manage, they also point to what? The potential of localized peace building model. But at the same time, we have so many examples of bad leaders, weak institutions, collapsed local institutions, and it raised this pertinent question. Because looking at our own local realities experience, what new turn in local peace building can we conceive or envision? My paper has addressed some of these issues, but I also believe that our conversation here today will also start key light into some of these issues. Thank you. I would like to acknowledge funding support first and foremost from the African Peace Building Network of the Social Science Research Council. Funded my research in 2026 and the collaborating working group in 2018 and 2019. I also acknowledge funding support from the American Political Science Association, Centennial Foundation, the International Peace Research Association Foundation, and the American Council. As far back as 2010, I have also done the research that identified some of these key dynamics. These are some of the ones I took from them. Thank
you. I am just worried by the fact that when she wanted to acknowledge the funding from those organizations, she kept the microphone down. So I don't know why you did that, but we'll find out. When my prof was introducing the keynote speaker, Professor Auss-Ng back in the day, said she is rich in mind, she's rich intellectually, the richness was all over, and finally he landed right she's rich in the pocket. And so with all these organizations that are funded, I wanted to say that we should, the only way I could confirm, of course, her richness intellectually has been proven by her presentation. Can we appreciate Professor Auss-Ng? But I need to find out the richness of the pocket. Please permit me to send you my account details, because that's the only way we can confirm the richness of your pocket. Those in favor, please say aye. I have it, no need for names. Please, one more time, can we appreciate that? Every time the Niger Delta is mentioned anywhere, I get truly curious and truly interested. And a lot has been done to us in the Niger Delta. I couldn't be here, or you won't be seeing me in this capacity, or in this, perhaps in a different capacity, but maybe in this same business. If those crude oil money has been crudely put into my pocket, crudely, somehow it would have been a different ballgame. But well, I took up just two things. She said peace building is political and requires engagement with the problems of power. And again, while she was concluding, she said bad behavior of some local leaders can hamper the peace-building efforts of credible traditional leaders. I want to add even national leaders, not just local. You said bad behavior from local leaders. I mean, bad behavior of national leaders too. All these come together to cripple the attempt at peace building. Thank you very much, Professor Auss-Ng. A round of applause one more time for our keynote speaker. Please don't forget that I'll send you my account details. I hope you're with me. Here is how it already, Abi. At this juncture, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to welcome to the microphone my own indefatigable Dean, Faculty of Arts, Professor Amuche Madu, as she comes forward to do her goodwill message and her remarks. Please, let's keep the applause going. This is my team we're talking about here. You're welcome, ma'am. You're welcome, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. The acting Vice Chancellor is being represented by our own Professor Abdul Buba, my senior professor and colleague in the Faculty of Arts, Professor Sani Omar. Our able keynote presenter, I was enjoying the lecture at the back. I felt I should tell them that you shouldn't stop. Other members of the high table, on behalf of the Faculty of Arts, University of Abuja, I want to welcome you all to this great institution. We are very delighted to have you come to see us. And more importantly, we are very grateful to this organization for choosing us to hold this seminar today. When the head of history, which is domiciled in the Faculty of Arts, that's the reason I am here. When he mentioned this to me, I said, oh, wow, this is going to put us on the map, on the limelight. And as they were, preparing and doing all the meetings, and I was being updated. Yesterday, I should have been with the team, the LOC, to see the Vice Chancellor, but something ugly happened and I couldn't make it. But I said I must be here today, even though I have other engagements, at least to welcome the participants and all the visitors that have come to grace this occasion. The theme of this seminar cannot be overemphasized, considering the situation we have in the country today. I'm so happy that something like this is coming up at this time, at this critical time in the life of this nation. Revisiting reimagining the peace factor. Very important. And I like the fact that this organization is redirecting and refocusing the issue of peace down to the African values. The Africans are always known to promote peace, communally. We know that in the real African context, your neighbor is your brother, irrespective of where the person is coming from. But we've lost all these values. And that is why we now talk about my faith, my religion, my town, my region, my, all these religious, tribalism, nepotism things have really messed us up. And actually, that is the reason we have the insecurity and, in fact, the backwardness we have today in this country. And I am happy that the keynote speaker addressed this issue, championing peace even through our traditional settings. That is the African value. Now, I don't want to give another lecture. I am just here to say a big thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy your stay here. Thank you so very much.
Please, let's appreciate the Dean, Faculty of Arts, and also the chairperson of this occasion, Professor Amuche Madu. A loud round of applause one more time, please. Thank you. Okay, well, I've been told that we're going to take questions so that she can answer, our rich intellectual. You're rich intellectually, you're rich monetarily. Don't forget my account details, man. So we're going to take questions. I don't know what format that will go or that should take. But please, if you're ready with questions, we are ready to take them, give you answers. So please, let's have questions. Just put your hands up. Yes, one. I want to take maybe 5 we do. Maybe 5 for now. As the day progresses, as 2. Yes, sir. There are students. Okay. Okay, we have 3 hands up already. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the students who listened. Sometimes the students. So we have 4 hands up. So I'll take the first person, please. Yes, sir. You would want to introduce yourself? To come forward? All right, God bless you. Thank you very much. A microphone is coming to you. So you ask your questions.
Thank you very much. I must appreciate the brilliant scholar who have given us the keynote. Thank you very much. I feel honored to have listened to you. It's quite amazing. What a brilliant scholar you are. Here comes my question. We have been thinking about theory from South for a long time on how to conceptualize peace building and violence. Meanwhile, my name is Professor Victor Kori from Obafemi Awolowo University. Now, we have been talking about theory from South, theory from North. One thing has remained with us, and I see that we cannot run away from it. What do we stand to learn more when we begin to think of violence and peace as commodity with reference to the dominant political economy in which we live? Your field work, your ethnographic work, actually has these trappings of violence and peace as commodities. Given the fungibility of violence, as you rightly pointed out, that the same people we organize women to go and foment, to go and maybe picket the companies, and money come. In a way, some people become violent laborers who are now being used to produce violence that is to be bought. Then other people buy bodyguard, put in the place. You see, we find ourselves that we have come to the historical juncture in human history where everything is being sold. And except, as you pointed out, we address the fundamental issue of mode of production and consumption, that everything is sold. Look at it. Somebody has to sell weapons of war. Somebody has to go and fight. Somebody has to supply money for humanitarian intervention. We have a system of production that have created what Kamas called primitive accumulation and a continuous industry. That continuous industry is what underpins the violence. Now, Zamfara have been stable. I served in Kebbi State during my youth service. I was surprised that I cannot freely move in the place where I did my youth service. That was not the case when I was serving, until we were told that gold was found somewhere. All of a sudden, Boko Haram arrived from heaven or from hell and began to devastate Northeast. And we got NGO. You mentioned them. But we must understand that some of the so-called aids we received are responsible for our calamity as a nation. The blue diamond, somebody is making blue diamond, taking it, and then the NGOs who claim to be doing humanitarian services provide the vehicle with which blue diamond are being taken away. Now people are now displaced.
All right, please.
So
try to
please,
round
we
up.
need to think beyond just our theory from South to locate the main issue, which is you've pointed out, the structural inequality and the mere fact that we're now living in a war, in a system where everything is bought and sold, including peace. Now you have to buy peace. Now you have to sell violence. That is where we are. Violence is fungible, just like currency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, please bring it to the front. The gentleman in green. No, with cap, with cap. Yes, that third row. Thank you. It's on. Speak into it directly. Okay.
Thank you, Prof, for your presentation. My worry when you are presenting your paper is on the issue of the failure of the local government system in Nigeria. When you're talking about peace building in the localist perspective, I was thinking about the role of the traditional rulers you highlighted in your presentation. And when you talk about peace at the local level, the 3 Ds are always missing. That is the decentralization, the congestion, and the devaluation of policies and programs from the state level. If this is absent from the state, there's no way we will achieve peace at the local level. The traditional rulers, as far as I'm concerned, are oppressed by the state. Because whatever policies or programs you have, if the traditional rulers and the people at the community level are not carried along, there's no way peace will endure at the local level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's keep it brief until the point. Bring it to the front. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. It was a wonderful presentation. So mine is on, I wish we could actually, just like the first.
Please, cameraman, do you mind separating so that they can see the people asking questions? Two of you are too close.
Just like the first discussant, talked about, everything is now sold and bought. So I wish that at the end of this, we should be able to buy or sell a way forward in the end. By the way, my name is Professor Chuka Ononye from the University of Nigeria. Now, that allows me to think about the way forward. So, Prof, when you were talking, you largely talked about the traditional rulers, the local councils and all of that. So it sounds like your research has actually been domiciled at the grassroots. And we know exactly that sometimes, just like you've highlighted in your research, some of the problems, most of the time the traditional rulers would not really release the funds given to them. In fact, they seem to be the ones in charge of giving out names of the beneficiaries and all of that. And eventually, when these names or when the proceeds come, they don't get to, centralize them. But the question is, would you really say this is their fault regarding the, major issue having to do with poverty in Nigeria? And just like the second person talked about as well, most times the states oppress the traditional rulers. We've seen institutions in Nigeria where the state governor is fighting with the traditional rulers and then they don't want to let them rest. So don't you see this coming from the state, for example? Don't you see this coming from the national, who will tell the traditional rulers, we are using this for a sort of a campaign. These are the people you give this. And then the traditional rulers might not necessarily want to go away from that order. So I think having to just blame the traditional rulers might be not that objective. So let us see where this is coming from. If it's coming from the national. For example, we've seen some palliatives that have been hidden away in some storehouses. And so those are not traditional rulers that did that. Some people have been ordered to do that, and they did it so until people intercepted them, and then, everything burst. So I think we should, largely be objective about this. The problems might not really be that of the traditional rulers. So I have a feeling that someone, but this is also open to research, I have a feeling that someone is ordering them to do that, and eventually everything just ties down to a circuit. So in the light of this, what would you, Prof, the direct question is, what would you have government do in this kind of situation with respect to policies or some other non-policy initiatives? Thank you so much.
Thank you. To your right, sir. That should be our last question.
Thank you so much, Professor. What's it? Always the force of nature that you are. Thank you so much. It's interesting that the conversation is around traditional rulers. I want to still remain there. Professor Umar is here. He's done research on that, and he would find the point I want to make also interesting, because we've had this conversation with him. Traditional rulers, they are not local men. They are no longer local men. Retired generals, permanent secretaries, CBN governors. They are professors. Professors. They are modern men holding traditional position. Men of influence, men of power, men of means, men of wealth. But at the end of the day, when you take that position, first class chief as you are nothing but a public servant. You are subject to the state, to the powers that be. Forgive me, but the Oni and they're laughing are fighting over who controls Odua. But they are subject to a local government chairman. The local government chairman can call them to account if he has the wherewithal. My point is, the 1975-76 local government reforms changed the way traditional rulers operate. They have been very creative and they have remained relevant. And the seats have remained attractive to men of means and power. But we have still not functioned out what to do with traditional rulers. Do we bring them back into the constitution, into relevance? What do we do? Because you refer to them as local, and they, based on the position, they're local, but they're not necessarily local. They are part of the elite system. They are part and parcel of that elite system. So what do we do? What do we do with the institution? And I think it links to Professor Chuka's point about, again, how the local government has been hijacked by the state. It's still another crisis. What do we do? Because the local government has virtually collapsed in Nigeria. They virtually collapsed. But I really feel that, again, what is the basis of this idea you talked about of networks, of a movement? of a universal network of movement that can not just, because everybody is fighting in his own silo, in his own, So how do we build that? I think you need to say more about that. You need to perhaps develop that a bit further. But I really have no sympathy for traditional rulers, because if you take that position, you should know what you're stepping into. Really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for the critical questions you have raised. So I want to start from the first questions about violence. And when we talk about violence itself, it's a very broad term. And in understanding violence, we need to look at the structural dimension, the psychological dimension of violence, the physical dimension, and as well as the cultural dimension, which is also interpreted, symbolic, and so on. But my key issue is that when we look embedded in the issues about resource conflict, the drivers are the structural dimension of violence, that it's unequal, unjust distribution of resources. And the approach to managing it can what? Result in conflict or mitigate, or what? Mitigate violence, result in violence or mitigate violence. So the point I'm saying is that in contents whereby resource conflict over resource is linked to inequitable distribution of resources, then you ask, who are the people that are managing and controlling that resources? At the state level, the state, at the national level. I emphasize the fact that this conflict manifests, fester, and proliferates in communities. For example, in the case of Niger Delta, there have been agitation over resource control, derivation formula, that what is coming into the community is not adequate, and they face environmental problem and so. But the little benefit coming into the community, how is it being managed to what? To mitigate the structural dimension in terms of unequal distribution of this benefit? How do community manage this to address the structural dimension of that can manifest in what? Physical violence, the cultural, the psychological dimension. So the reality of our community, for example, in Niger Delta, I get to a stage where I have to ask the people, okay, this agitation for resource control, lower level resource nationality. Now, if your resources is given to you to manage, now nobody is contesting it. The state has said, no, take hold over, manage this explode. Do you think it can result in just peace? In that, he said, no. That is the answer. No, across the board. Because within community, that structure of inequality, of unjust distribution, also what? Manifests in a way that make it impossible for people to be able to cope with what? The little resources. And that's where when we talk about competition for resources, we have that, are the resources scarce or unjustly distributed? So when we are talking about violence, we should look at how do we interpret issue of indirect violence that manifests in violence. My point by emphasizing community resilience is that even with the resources available to community, how do they manage it? How do they build their agency to even develop these resources in a way to mitigate structural violence that are the root of grievance, that can also prevent people from positively responding, coping, adapting to challenge that manifests in violence. So that is it. So we have to look at all these dimensions and the structure of inequality at the local level. So the other question about dimension, okay, yeah, I've talked about that. The law, Nigerian law, for traditional leaders and so. Yes, when I was talking about the positive role of traditional, I said they face legal and institutional constraints. But despite this, they are able to still mitigate? Are they navigating the challenges in a way that help them to build their capacity? And that's why my topic emphasizes on resilience. We know that there are constitutional barriers. We know there are legal institutional barriers. But if some communities are able to navigate the challenge, to promote, build their resilience to cope, because I emphasize this conflict manifests faster and proliferate in communities. They are the ones that face the consequence of the violent action. When Boko Haram came and said, we are agitating for what? Western education is forbidden. They feast on what? This issue of poverty, unemployment, inequality. Boko Haram create a kind of social capital, a socio-economic, whereby they give loan, everything, to create the impression that they want to support the people. They provided what the government will not provide for them. And that's why the role of traditional leaders. If government are effective in providing this, can community not build their agents to be? Because the problem at the state and national level is so wide, it's so large. But at the same time, who are the receiving end of the violence? Is it not the local people who are affected, whose infrastructure is damaged and destroyed? It is still the local people. And that raises the necessity of the destructive approach to violence. We affect them. When they believe in Boko Haram, and they were able to mobilize large number of youth, people, for their, eventually who are attacked. Are they saying not the people that they mobilize, that they are attacking at the end of the day? Is it not their community that is being destroyed? So, despite this institutional legal constraint, which is broad, which will take a long time to address, there is a need for community to see how they will manage the challenges in a way to address the structural dynamics of conflict and cope positively. And the key issue is that I've seen communities who are able to navigate these challenges despite this constraint. We've seen communities that are marginalized by state government, by national government. They don't even have ordinary school for children. And they are able to raise money among themselves to be able to what? Provide school, provide teachers. And this one help them to mitigate violence that retard the case of what? Develop even the little infrastructure they have in this community. So that is it. The other question also is related to this, the traditional, what way forward and the impact of the state on traditional leaders. And so civil society, yes, we know that the state is a key handicap to traditional institutions. We know that what? We have seen cases where political interference undermine the capacity of traditional leaders. Yeah, I emphasize that. But the key reality is that despite this constraint, community who are the ones that are affected, if I issue of security, lack of security provision, when they realize this, you'll be passing through some community in Bakilandi, Borough community going. And then you see where their security personnel station. When you ask, you find out they belong to those in ethnic majority. They borrow something. You see Fulani community exposed something. So those community will just continue to sit there and wait for government to provide security. Who will be attacked? I recall when I was on the field study somewhere and said the community is safe now because the fact is that all those youth that they have tried their own electioneering campaign. I said, as I sat, one person said, but you know that sometimes they are sporadic attack. I said, God. And I'm in this place now. Oh, I pray for security. So the point I'm saying is that what should community do to help themselves? I create this concept of self-help in a way to mitigate challenge. That's why they set up some security aspects, whereby Yamboko. In some community, they didn't do that. I mentioned why community positivity of traditional leader who believe that they are spear. After all, we have security guiding us. So let's live. And they live their community exposed. Because one key issue with the violence is retributive, recurring, repeated violence. It's very rampant. So why we commonly sit and wait for government who is far from them? The local government we talk. I've gone to local government offices. Do you meet them? I was on in the field research in River State, and I insisted I must interview this local government something. I went there for over 1 month. Eventually, I was persistent. When I met them, they said, hey, we don't get money. You know, we are waiting. For the last 6 months, we have not been paid. I know until I even become an adult, do I even know what responsibility is meant for local government, even that we have local government. So the reality is that they come to collect money and leave. So, but it's the tradition that are close to the people. And the reality is that where they have strong local institutions, where they are culturally rooted in custom, they are able to deploy our values that help them to go. They are able to build a kind of community development initiative that mitigates it and contain the impact. I want to emphasize in Niger Delta, there's this issue about culture of violence. What people should do is that violence is the only language that the government understands. Even professors are interviewed say, no, let me tell you, violence is the only language. If those people, government will not give them something. But when they deploy violence, who are killed? Helpless people. Who are affected? The ordinary man, the ordinary fishermen, ordinary farmers are affected. And at the same time, when they deploy violence, who get the benefit? This same traditional leader, they get it, they appropriate it. When the ordinary people, powerless, continue to suffer. I recall I was with focus group discussion with some youth. They said pipeline surveillance contact by Ateke Tom or so. They don't get it in there. See, I was something. When they went to meet Ateke Tom, he said, are you people protesting? Are you attacking oil facilities? If you don't attack it, don't expect them to capture you in the pipeline surveillance contact. But at the day when they do that, who suffer? Whose environment is polluted? Is it not see the people? And who suffer? The powerless suffer. Why the powerful continue to get the benefit? So in this context, it is important to emphasize community resilience, to cope positively, to build their own socio-cultural capital agency to cope. Now I will conclude with this constitutional constraint, legal constraint. It is a key challenge. We understand that. You know, in Ghana, they created a system where they are integrating their traditional leader. You raise issue that who are these traditional political, who even elect them, appoint them. Look at the case of Oyo State. Alaafin for you. It took how many months? Almost a year before they appoint, because they politicize it. I mentioned in community, friends contestation to be traditional leader, to be this, because they restructure the one hand political interference, the other hand within community, where they even turn it to an election, something that they have something in the Niger Delta now. There they have term for traditional ruler. They do by appointment. Some people who retire, who have lived in urban center, they now come to retire in the local community and they want to become the leader so that they can use that to appropriate money. Share of community development. So what are they doing? Are they doing it because they are representing their people? Or they are doing it as a means to get access to power and resources for their own selfish motive? So the constitutional barrier is a challenge. And when we are talking about way forward, we look at it that we have to reconcile the local turn in a way to look at those models where traditional and making positive, they serve as remote, but their capacity is still being constrained by the state, national, even the international, civil society that are providing funding. They are aware, but within that civil society, those those in the international community, they are not aware of the institutional barrier, challenge they face here. They give them money, they give them transfer, they have the abduction, they have local community where things work, where they promote agency, local ownership, whereas that is not the case. How do we call attention to all this local reality that can make them to what? Reframe that framework, that local turn in peace building to be more inclusive, that can promote sustainable. So it is us. We have a role to play. How do we use our voice, our publication to highlight this key challenge? How do they also can pressure our government who depend on aid, something to be able to? Because if we say they integrate traditional leader in constitution, who are the traditional leaders they should integrate? Is those without credibility, those who will still promote the same, will still replicate the top down because few are credible. But at the same time, in those communities, there are people with credibility, but are they? But those people, the cultural asset that has been disintegrated across board is another key challenge to be able, how do we address that key challenges? So there are series of challenges that are multi-layer, but we still see potential. We are traditional leaders as play key role. And how do we use that to be able to look at the local reality that constrains the localized peace building approach? And how do we look at the advocate and see how we can use this to what? Reframe the strategy that can make it more successful, more effective, more inclusive. Thank you very much.
I don't think that is the best you can do. You can see the richness in her response. Thank you very much, Prof. We are moving on. May I at this point invite the LOC co-chairperson, Dr. Joyce Agofure. Please, a round of applause for her as she comes forward for her own remarks. And thereafter, we'll call in Dr. Sani Adam. You're welcome, ma'am.
Good morning, distinguished guests and esteemed fellows. My name is Joyce Honorary Agofure. My job here is very simple. I'm here to appreciate everyone present in this place. I would like to begin by appreciating the Social Science Research Council through the huge support of Carnegie Corporation's New York to the APN and Next Gen program. I'm sure some persons here will be wondering what exactly is the Social Science Research Council. It is a US-based organization deeply dedicated to advancing research in social sciences and its related disciplines. It offers fellowships such as APN, that is African Peace Building Network, and that is always towards those with PhDs. And then the Next Gen is dedicated towards those students. The Next Gen is Next Generation Social Sciences in Africa. It's important we say this because many persons here, part of the reason this program was brought to the University of Abuja is to, sensitize you about this wonderful program. So we greatly look forward to you applying for these fellowships. I would like to very importantly appreciate the program director of APN and Next Gen, our very own Professor Cyril B., an outstanding researcher and leader, for all he has been doing in the APN and Next Gen program. Please put your hands together for him. To our co-advisors, Professor Adogame and Professor Nana, who were actually were supposed to join us virtually, but for the time zone thing, they could not make it. We say a huge thank you to them for the guidance to the LOC. Without them, I don't know how we would have navigated this whole process. So one more time, thank you so much, co-advisors. To the chief hosts, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja, Professor Matthew Adamu, a huge thank you for the hospitality. And to the host, the HOD of the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, we say thank you for all you've done for us. And the head of the department is ably represented by Professor M.S. Umar. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. You've been so awesome. I would like to quickly mention that Professor M.S. Umar led the entourage to the courtesy visit with the Vice Chancellor of this great institution, that is the University of Abuja, now the Yakubu Gowon University. I would like to as well appreciate the very wonderful staff members of these great institutions. I say thank you. And in this regard, I would like to mention our contact person, Dr. Awal. Dr. Awal is here. Please, could you stand up for recognition? He has been so awesome. I tell you, he's done so wonderfully for us. Thank you so much, sir. I would as well quickly mention a very wonderful person without whom we could not have the access to the Vice Chancellor yesterday. I'd like to mention Dr. Sefia Yero. I don't know whether she's here at the moment. I say thank you so much. We appreciate you. To the House LOC members, whoa, I say thank you for all you've been. I say thank you for the laughters. Thank you for the handwork. I didn't see you clap for the House LOC. It's not easy. Thank you so much. To the APN and NextGen participants, thank you for the great job. Thank you for scholarship. Thank you for outstanding researches that you put out there. Please put your hands together for yourselves. I want to make it known that for the participants who are present here today in this inaugural seminar series, it was a huge competition in the whole selection process. So if you're here, I want you to beat your chest and know that you're awesome. Thank you. To our distinguished guests, we thank you for gracing this event. To our keynote speaker, whoa. Thank you, Professor Abosede Babatunde, for that wonderful and awesome presentation. You made us proud. Thank you so much. And to our very own Maimuna Cherif, I say thank you for all the observations. We had series and series of meetings, emails, and then she has this gentle way of correcting and putting us through. Thank you, and I hope you're enjoying your stay in Nigeria. To all the wonderful staff members of the ASU Researchers Charlie, we say thank you for doing a great job. They've been so hospitable and respectful. Thank you. And on this note, I want to say we look forward to a robust presentations and discussions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. I want to invite Dr. Sani Adams, co-chairperson, to come and then round off completely what we've been doing today. It's all that ends well. That's what Shakespeare said. This is ending very, very well. Let's appreciate him as he comes forward. Dr. Sani, please.
Thank you. the Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja, the HOD, History, represented by Professor M.S. Umar, our keynote speaker, deans here and the staff of the University of Abuja. Good morning. Actually, the co-chair, Dr. Agopure, has made my job very easy because I am expected to give vote of thanks to the participants and our guests, and she has largely done that. So, but let me reiterate our own gratitude, profound gratitude to the Vice Chancellor of University of Abuja, Professor Matthew, for his kindness in receiving us yesterday and for the kind comments that he made about the SSRC and our Auss-Ng. We are very grateful to him. And also we are grateful to the representative Vice Chancellor, Professor Abdul Buba. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting to represent the Vice Chancellor to be here with us. And we are also very grateful to the chairperson of this occasion, Professor Madu Amuche, and we are grateful to the HOD, Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, Professor Okeke Tochukwu, who is heavily represented by a renowned scholar, Professor M.S. Umar. We are also grateful to the Dean of Pharmacy, Professor Musa Ismail, and the Dean of Engineering, Professor Abdul Fattah Jimo, represented by the Deputy Dean, Professor Musa T. Zarmai. And we are, of course, let me also reiterate our own gratitude to Dr. Safia, the head, Safia Ismail, the head Department of Engineering, and also Dr. Awal, our contact person at the University of Abuja. We are grateful to all of you. We are grateful to the SSRC, to Maimuna, who came all the way from the US to represent Cyril, to our participants, and more importantly, to the LOC members of the Auss-Ng, particularly our co-chair, Professor Joyce, Dr. Joyce Agupure, and other members of the LOC, that is Professors Chuka, Irene, Victor, and the doctors Jimam, Favor, Daniel, Olisa, for your wonderful cooperation in putting all these things together. We are very much grateful to everyone who has come here. And also we are grateful to the students, both postgraduate and undergraduate students of the University of Abuja who are also here with us. Thank you very much for coming. And also, it may interest you to note that this is just the opening ceremony, but the real business is about to start. You know, after the opening ceremony, we are going to have two parallel sessions. One will take place here, and the other one at another venue there. So I invite our guests to join, you know, these discussions. It's actually scholars from different parts of Nigeria that will be discussing peace and security in the country. So this is a very important theme, and I think our guests will benefit a lot from the discussions that will take place today by the grace of God. We are also grateful to Banjul at the registration desk, who also has actually helped us, you know, in registering some of the participants. So thank you very much. And please, I beg your forgiveness if I did not mention your name and Joyce did not mention your name. It's not an indication that we belittle your contribution. We are grateful to one who has contributed in one way or the other to the success of this opening ceremony and also to the success of the entire conference. We are also grateful to our cameramen and to the other staff who are helping to put things together. So thank you. Please forgive me if I did not mention your name. We recognize everyone and we are grateful to you all. So thank you very much. And I wish you safe journey to your various destinations. Thank you. We are grateful.
I want to say a very big thank you to everybody, and especially Dr. Auss for calling me at very short notice this morning. He has been trying to signal to Dr. Sani to also thank me, but Dr. Sani is not noticing it. So I want to thank myself. I was called up this morning, just this morning, to do this task. But this is what I do for a living. If you're looking for me, ask for Dr. Agoma Awaritoma, the university orator. There are many HODs. I am one of the HODs, but I am the only orator, University of Abuja. God bless you all. I'll see you around. God bless. Thank you.
Please, we want to have our group photograph. Men and women at the high table. We suggest we take it where we have our banner. Huh? Okay. Please, yeah. Let's have a group photograph taken here, please. Where are the? This you are on the high table. Go there. Our own people should go and join them at the high table. Where is Sunny? Please go and join them at the high table. Join at the high table. Okay, that's your body. I will reload it when we get to the session. Okay.
Respect when you mention my name.
Okay.
DJ Cypherly in the mix.
Are we set? The orator, sir. I salute the orator. I say the orator, sir. Yes, we are posting now. Where are the photographers? Those create the images. Who commodify images. Please, sorry. Possible you need to join this photo. Please wait, please. Just one more person, please join. You were on the high table. Yeah. Photographer, are you ready? Yes. Let's go. Good. Yeah. Please make sure you capture the inaugural. Okay, capture everything. Is it possible to have the LOC members also to join so that we have the join all the LOC members to join so that we have. Please don't go yet. Prof, Please, just one more shot. Please, just one more. Stefana, we want you to respect those who came and. Oh, there's all of the space. Okay, because we are matter. Anything that has weight and occupies space. Okay, we are done here. We wanted to put a LOC member, but it cannot take us off. The LOC members, they are matter. Anything that has weight and occupies space. Yeah. Flowers are if we can't take them, we do that outside. So the special guests, can we allow them to go? Can we now, is it outside or here?